Welcome to the latest installment of Chord by Chord, a series designed to build your understanding of harmony and the fretboard. In our last video, I showed you how to build various D7 voicings from D major voicings. In this video, I'm going to show you how to do the same thing, but with G major and G7. As a refresher, a G major triad is made up of three notes: the root, the third, and the fifth, which in this case are G, B, and D. To get a G7 chord, all you have to do is add on the top a flatted seventh, which in this case is F natural. We call it the flatted seventh because it's actually the seventh note from the G scale lowered by a half step. Here's the G major triad spelled out in example 1. And here's the G7 triad spelled out in example 2. Example 3 shows us how to get G major and G7 voicings from open chord shapes. This lesson isn't really about changing between these two chords, but for the record, the easiest way to change between G major and G7, which is something that you often have to do in popular music, is to keep your first finger on the first fret of the first string, which is the F, which is the flatted seventh, and play the G on the third fret of the high E string of the G major chord with your pinky. So then to get to the G7 chord, all you have to do is lift your pinky, or your fourth finger. You can also try muting the fifth string instead of playing it for a cleaner sound. Example 4A and 4B gives us bar chords in third position. That's example 4A. So for example 4A, all you have to do is lift your fourth finger to get to the G7. Then in example 4B, you're basically playing the same G7 shape from example 4A. You're doubling the flatted seventh by putting your fourth finger on the sixth fret of the second string. When playing example 4A, you don't always have to play all 6 strings. To get a different sound, you could play just the bottom 4 strings or just the top 4. So here's what it would sound like with just the bottom 4. And here's what it would sound like with just the top 4. Example 5 gives us a nice clean 3-string voicing played on the top 3 strings. It is worth noting that since a G7 chord is made up of 4 notes and those 3-note voicings are only made up of 3 notes, in order to make that G7 voicing a G7, it's crucial that it includes that flatted seventh. Example 6 gives us some bar chords in 10th position. Feel free to use the middle 4 strings or just the top 3 strings of this shape to get some different derivative voicings. Now that we're at the end of this video, you should know how to construct a G7 chord and how to get various G7 shapes from various G major shapes. One song that happens to make use of a G7 chord is Johnny Cash's I Walk the Line. I keep a close watch on this heart of mine. I keep my eyes wide open all the time. I keep the ends out for the tie that binds. Because you're mine, I walk the line. Thanks for watching. Next time I'll show you various ways to build a C7 chord from a C major chord.